Hello, everybody. It's here Lance Russell along with Dave Brown. We've got something a little bit different for you today. Just fucking with you. It's just me, Bobby Blaze. Welcome back to the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze podcast. We're going to have something a little bit different for you this week. The professor's not going to be here, so it's just going to be me. He's down with the COVID. Sorry to hear about that. Let's wish him a speedy recovery from this wicked disease that's out there right now. So with that said, we'll get the podcast started. We're doing Jerry the King Lawler this week. We did Jimmy Hart, then we did Memphis, and now we're doing Jerry Lawler. As you can kind of see, this is the way our season's going. This is just going to be called Jerry the King Lawler, and I'm going to be doing it by myself, as said, and I'm just going to go by some notes I'd written up throughout the week, and hopefully in a couple of days the professor will feel good enough or well enough to maybe edit this down or add some background to it, or maybe even give me an introduction. Who knows? So Jerry Lawler, Jerry the King Lawler, let's get that out of the way right away. He is the king of professional wrestling, as we know. There have been many other people that did the king gimmick, but no one's been the actual king of professional wrestling. Back when they had the King Haku, they did that, and then that was just a Vince thing, and King Harley Race, But we're going to go with the original king here, Jerry the King Lawler. He had more titles than anyone, and if the professor was here, I'm sure he could tell you exactly every fucking title that the guy held. But it's 168 titles that we know for sure he's held. I'm going to talk about a couple of them specifically here in a minute. We know that Bobby Shane gave him his first crown. Jerry Lawler used to be a disc jockey, and he'd promote shows on the air. He would draw. He's a real good artist. If you don't know that, he would draw some what you call it, damn things, caricatures, if you will, of the matches he'd go to on that night in Memphis, and then he'd send him in. He'd go home and draw what he saw that night in caricatures. And then he would mail those into the TV station, hoping to get some publicity off of that. He caught the eye of promoter Aubrey Griffith, along with Lance Russell and a star at the time, Jackie Fargo, and that would become Lawler's trainer and mentor. He broke into the business in 1970. Like I said, he's working as a DJ, and he promotes some of the shows on the air in exchange for the wrestling lessons. In 1974, on July 24th, he beat Fargo to become the king of wrestling. So there's a little bit of background history, and some of this I'm not going to get right, and a lot of it I'm going to get right, and a lot of it I'm just going to be talking to you about some of the reason that Jerry the King Lawler's over and over with me. I grew up watching Memphis wrestling. We discussed that the last couple of weeks while we've been down in talking about Jimmy Hart and talking about the Memphis Wrestling TV. Of course, the Tennessee territory last week was covered as well, not just Memphis. Lawler, he just growing up watching him. He was the king. It was I could put any match out there, and they would put him on TV every week, and every other week, he'd be making an appearance on a TV, and it's talking to people into the building. He had the gift for gab, and he always ran those different angles with different people. So I'm going to be talking about some different things today. One that got over with me is he has I guess you'd call this number 9, I don't know. He owns a 1966 replica Batmobile. I found that fascinating. It was built on a early Corvette C4 chassis system with a Buick 350 SID VH engine in it. It's listed. If you want to buy it, folks, it's out there. Maybe Lawler will give me some kickback on this. I doubt it, cheap bastard. But anyway, it's $110,900 on Hemmings.com. It's been signed by Adam West, Burt Ward, as well as the King and a few others. So if one of you lucky fuckers buy that thing, make sure you tell Lawler to give old Bobby Blaze a little bit of kickback out of it for publicity, getting the word out there about his Batmobile. I wouldn't mind actually going for a ride in that thing. They said it's drivable. I wouldn't mind driving around town for maybe 10 minutes or so. That'd be enough to get my nut. Hell, I went to a car show in Baltimore, probably in 1966 or 67. And I saw the Batmobile. I saw the Munster Mobile. I got to see all those damn things, man, back in the day when I was younger. I've been to several car shows since then, too. None like that first time, though, man, where they had all those 60 shows. The Monkey's car was there and all that. But Lawler has a replica of it, and it's for sale. If you folks want to buy it, go ahead and buy the damn thing. I don't care one way or the other. Let's jump down here to number 8. Number 8, if you're keeping track at home. I don't know why you would be. Fuck, I hardly ever do. But anyway, it would be as an induction into the Hall of Fame. That's why I said that, because I hardly ever pay attention. I'm glad when the guys do get in. This is a good gimmick for the guys to make some extra money and get an extra payoff and be remembered on the WWE there on the network through the years. But he was inducted in 2007. And overall, Lawler has held more championships than any other current WWE employee, though he's never won any double WWE singles and or tag team championships since joining the company. So there you go. It's one of those things where the guys never even worked for the company and still getting a Hall of Fame. Like I said, good for them. They do get the publicity. And like I said, get a payoff, and a person inducts them into the Hall of Fame, they get a payoff as well. So, going on here, and I'm going kind of fast here. I'll come back and add some stories and this and that and that and this. Number 7, man, he's a great ring commentator. He has a gift for gab, and of course he had a quick wit and a sharp tongue. And he announced during the WWE Raw Attitude Era and SmackDown as well, and he's done both of those for over 25 years. I think that's pretty damn impressive too, man. He was always a good talker. Like I said earlier, he was talking him into the building, and just one of those things that takes a few things to make a good professional wrestler. And I know when Lawler, king of all Memphis, he had to talk people in and talk to, with the promoter Jerry Jarrett and him, and they bring in these big names and run their angles there, and he was able to talk good. Won't say he was greatest wrestler, like if it come down to, arm drag takedowns or just taking a man off his feet or something like that. But as far as a wrestler, he's one of the greatest ever because of the showmanship part. He's on a scale of 100 over on that thing, man. That showmanship, again, the talking and the showmanship part of wrestling that you need to get over. He had that, Then his body, not overly huge, definitely not small, but he used it well and to his advantage, and that's one of the things about Lawler. He stayed in pretty good shape throughout his entire career, although, hell, he survived Eddie Gilbert running over him with a car. He survived a broken leg by Jerry Cahoon playing touch football. Hell, he even survived a heart attack in a ring. So he's a tough old son of a gun, man. He's one of them guys. To my knowledge, he don't drink or smoke or anything like that. I've always heard he's a teetotaler, and so that's probably a good part of his healthy lifestyle. Probably helped save his life when he did have a heart attack. I don't know how the hell he got in the way of that car of Eddie Gilbert trying to run over him, but anyway, that's some of the things that he survived, and I'm sure he had a lot more in-ring serious accidents take place. But nonetheless, man, he would talk him into the building, so he had the gift for gab. Good body, not great, wasn't over muscle head, he wasn't skinny, he just had a good body. And the showmanship part of wrestling, he just had it down. That's the ingredients that it took to make Lawler such a good champion. Some of those titles we're going to talk about, man, I'll make this one here, we'll say number 6, on May 9th, 1988. He defeated Kurt Hennig to become the AWA champion. When I watched him when I was younger, it was always at the American Wrestling Association Southern Heavyweight champion. He had won that over 17 times. He won it over 50 times. I correct myself. He won that title over 50 times, and he had it another 17 times when the National Wrestling Alliance controlled it. So he was doing good business, and that was the main title that I always remember him having. Of course, I was really stoked and excited for him when he won the AWA championship. In my mind, if you can go back and look at these matches, I was thinking, oh man, he beat Bockwinkel, but it wasn't Bockwinkel. It was Kurt Hennig, and then that was in May, and then on December the 15th of that same year, 1988, he beat Kerry Von Erich to become. So they unified the AWA title with the WCCW title. I'm sure if the professor was here, get your ass well, professor. He could tell you more in detail how these titles, cause I think Vern had something to do with coming down and getting involved and getting out of it or whatever, the WCCW. But anyway, Lawler became the AWA champion. I really popped for that. I always thought he could be a world champion. I didn't think that he would ever. I know he fought NWA. I know he fought Flair a couple of times. I know he fought Terry Funk several times. That's what I was trying to say. Bockwinkel, Martel, all these guys. And I tell you what, if you want, you can go look up any of these matches. From 1981, watch his, I was NWA, WWF, or WWE at the time, and AWA. I knew he could have been a champion in one of those. I didn't know that he would be an NWA champion, but I could see him in that AWA role, and that's the one that he won. What I was going to say is, if you go back to, think, 81, the very first Terry Funk match he had with him, not since the first time to wrestle each other, but the first 5-star match took place between Funk and Lawler. That's available on YouTube. I think there's 2 different sets of audio out there. One's got a little bit better audio than the other. You can watch that. That's really good. There's a Flair match that took place in the studio. I think it only went 10 minutes, and I think Flair asked for like an extra 5 minutes, but he left the ring after a couple minutes, so he made it like 12 minutes on TV. They also, I think it was 2003 or 2004, Flair and Lawler both wrestled each other on a night on an edition of Raw. You can look that up too. It's pretty good. I've watched it a couple months back. Again, you can look up any of these matches and enjoy them, is what I was going to say. One of my favorite things is the one Party Race, and they put that song behind it. I'm trying to think of the damn song. Spencer Davis Group, I think, who does it. I'm a Man or something. And it's just a video of highlights of them who just bumping their asses off, punching, selling, flipping. I mean, it's got everything you want in a match. It's about 10 minutes, I think, inside of a video. Like I said, it's just really good. Just whoever put the video together, man, done a really good job, because they took it. Took all the great bumps in there. They took a lot of great falls, kickouts, and things like that. One thing I was going to say in there too is when a strap comes down, this should be its own category right here. When a strap comes down, someone is going to get their ass kicked, their ass beat, or something's going to happen really good. When he pulls that strap down, man, someone's in trouble, man. You know that when he pops that strap down. And I'm just rattling on here, man. I guess I can go on forever. Talk about the next one would be Jerry the King Lawler takes on Andy Kaufman in their iconic match at the Mid-South Coliseum on April 5th, 1982. If you listen to the last 2 weeks, I'm not going to be redundant about that. But, Andy Kaufman was a big TV star on a hit show called Taxi. And he was an intergender champion. He'd whip women and fight women and pin them and stuff. And in doing so, he claimed, he could whip anyone, and he didn't believe in that phony wrestling stuff and this and that. And, of course, Jerry Lawler stepped up to be a real man and put him through his paces. And they ended up drawing, big business. They went to New York on a Dave Letterman show and, just put Memphis on a map nationally, as if people didn't, if you wasn't a hardcore wrestling fan, you soon knew a lot about the Memphis wrestling from that angle that took place. He gave Andy Kaufman 2 pile drivers, very stiff looking, but it worked, and of course they made a movie out of it, The Man on the Moon, and I think Lawler's been in a couple other movies too, but I just wanted to put that out there to you. Sorry if my voice has sound a little bit rough. I'm used to someone at least interrupting me or saying something. That's just me drinking some water. If it wasn't so early in the day, I'd probably switch to beer, to be honest with you. But I hold off to the evening before I have any beer. Got to watch that, So I'm just going down a list here, just some different things, some different ideas, some talking points. the funny thing about it was on Memphis Wrestling that you could always appreciate. They had two great announcers. You had Lance Russell and Dave Brown. Now, Lance Russell, we did about a year ago or so, we did our top 10 announcers. And we had number one, Lance Russell, of course, because most of our audience voted for that. But it was real close. It could have been Gordon Soley, and anyone can argue over both of those points, and that's really cool if you do. I respect both your opinion, anyone's opinion as to of those two being the greatest announcer of all time. But the feud that played back and forth between Lance Russell and Jerry Lawler were kind of like the Howard Cosell and the Muhammad Ali of the Memphis sports. So that was always pretty cool because they was always talking to each other, but they always put each other down, and one dressed as the other, and the other dressed as the other. I mean, there's all kinds of, there's great footage. I think it's from Memphis Heat. Lawler is just sitting with Lance on a park bench or outside the building there, and they're just talking about the old TV shows and Memphis itself, and of course the Memphis wrestling. There's some gigs and gags in there. It's just funny as hell that they do between back and forth. I'm going to put this as number 4, probably the ongoing feud between superstar Bill Dundee and the King, Jerry Lawler. Them two just went back and forth. Who traded face to heel more? I don't have any idea, man. But like I said, when I listen to these matches, I tell you, going to go back and watch watch the Eddie Gilbert match. That's a pretty good one. Dutch Mantel, like I said, a couple Bockwinkel matches on there. Briscoe's who I was thinking of, NWA. Thank you. I knew he'd wrestled someone beside Flair and Funk in NWA. Yeah, I'm a Man by Spencer Davis Group. That was that video I was talking about. But back to the Lawler Dundee thing. You could just about pick any Lawler Dundee match. You know it's going to be good. There's a couple of them that's got video footage behind them, and a couple of them that just the regular matches from Mid-South Coliseum that was recorded and they put on. Of course, like I said, I mentioned earlier the Funk match, but that also led to the Empty Arena match, and we done my top 10 favorite matches of all times, and that's in my top 10. I really recall when that happened, and I really loved that match when Funk come out there and they yelling and they cussing, and Lance just in there smoking a cigarette on the air, and Funk say, Lawler's a chicken, he won't come out, and this and that, and then here's this empty arena, Mid-South Coliseum, and here comes Lawler in all white, which was great because, going to get juice and gig and this and that. And he's got his crown, and they go at it, man, and they go at it. And, my, Lance, get a doctor in here, Funk goes after Lawler with a piece of wood off the steps, and as he goes down to hit it, Lawler kicks his knee up, and it backfires and hits Terry Funk in the eye and damn near blinds him. I think Terry had to go off to Japan for about 3 weeks, so it kind of interrupted that reign, or that run rather, for what they built up for, but still, nonetheless, it worked. Pretty good stuff, man. I'm just going through some notes here, just kind of give me some starting points here. Well, really, great showmanship and great talker. Those things were good. I don't know how long I've been talking. It's probably been about 20 or 30 minutes. You're not going to get a full podcast this week. I just wanted to make sure we turn something in. Maybe the professor and I can go back over when he's feeling better. We can go back over and do Lawler better justice than I did on this one here, maybe not. But I got a couple of things I want to mention to you, and I'm going to tell you a story because I've had some personal history with Jerry Lawler. So if you'll hang on 1 second, I'll get to that because I'm going to get a drink of water here. Give me a second. And just to let you know, I got a couple books out there. My first book is Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boost Will Travel. If you'll use tinyurl.com/blazebook1, there's a shortcut on Amazon. It'll take you to it. The show will get a little bit of kickback out of it. In that book there, I tell the whole run about myself, going against Jerry the King Lawler in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I'm going to come back to that story in just 1 second. The second book I have is called I Kicked Out on Two, The Education of a Wrestler. If you want to, you can get these off Amazon. The shortcut to that one is tinyurl.com/blazebook2. I also have a couple of other, two short stories. Yard Time, about running a prison show at a federal prison. That runs as a short story, but it's also inside of the Yard Time is also located inside the I Kicked Out on 2 book. I've got Christmas is coming up. If you hear this before Christmas, do yourself a favor. I got a little ebook. It's called Season's Effing Greetings. And it's just a really hilarious story about a real life trip between my brother, my cousin, and one of my aunts, or my aunts, as you'll say. And we took a trip from the hills of Kentucky to the big city of Baltimore back in 1983 to do some shopping for the family Christmas that year. It's really one of the highlights of all my Christmases, probably. Really funny, little humorous story. I was in college at the time, and my brother was like a freshman or sophomore in high school. My cousin was in between us, and we just get into a hell of a lot of trouble and have a lot of good fun doing so. I've got another book, man. If you're into this kind of stuff, it's XXX. It's erotica romance. It's called Megan, Hot Wife on a DL. I really like that book a lot. It's just not based on any true characters. I was trying to just get something of a different genre on my Amazon page, and those ebooks are only $2.99 each. But again, if you want I Kicked Out on 2, The Educational Wrestler, that is at tinyurl.com/blazebook2. And my first book, Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots for Travel, is at tinyurl.com/blazebook1. Now, if you stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. I'm going to tell you a story, and so just listen up to story time here. And this is pretty much a story that's in Pin Me, Pay Me, and that is when I was working for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I want to say one of the greatest things about this match with Jerry the King Lawler, because the show's really supposed to be about him today, and I'll make this a little bit about myself, because everyone's telling me I need to put myself over more on a podcast. But I'm going to put my brother Jim over today on this podcast too, because at the time he was living in, we had lived together down in Florida when I was still training some, and I was traveling quite a bit, and I was wrestling, so I was based out of Tampa, and him and I had an apartment together. It was mostly his, and he let me kind enough to put up with me and let me stay there, so I had a place to train, and we go to the gym together in the mornings. He used to go to Malenko's with me sometimes. Just all kinds of fun times, living our best life, if you will. At the time, though, he was living way down in Miami, Florida, and he came all the way from Miami, Florida to Knoxville, Tennessee to see me wrestle against Jerry the King Lawler. The other good thing was, that I recall, is my mother was still alive at the time, and I got to take her from Ashland here in town and drove her so she could see her other son, my brother, and get to see me wrestle, of course. And so what was funny was the night before, I had double booked myself. I had known for weeks, let me back up a second. I had known for several weeks that Cornette was going to put the title on me. I was leaving town one Friday afternoon, and I had to do some business up in West Virginia in Huntington for an event I was running up here, a wrestling event. I had to do some radio promos for it and get the posters out. So I'd taken off and met the radio people. It was pretty much no cell phones in or anything, but I was coming back through Ashland area to go to Knoxville. But in doing so, I decided to stop by my house for like maybe 20 or 30 minutes or so. I don't know what for. Something just told me to stop, so I did. While I was home, it was on a Friday afternoon, and I was already going to be heading to Knoxville for a couple of days. It was Jim Cornette on the phone. And he said, "Hey, Bobby, we talked for a few minutes and we caught up on things. I'd been away from here for about 3 months at the time." He said, "I got an idea I want to run by you." And basically said, "How do you feel about me putting a strap on you? I'm thinking about putting a title on you." I about passed out. I was like, "What the fuck? Are you kidding me?" To myself, I'm like, "Oh, Jimmy, I'm really interested, And he goes, "Well, I'm working on a few things." And he asked me how I've been staying busy, and I had. And In fact, he was on another, he was still in Smoky Mountain going to another town in Tennessee, and I was going to, some outlaw mud show, I'm sure, down in Tennessee. And that's kind of the point of the story when I get the title, too. But anyway, so I was like, oh, my God. He said, just don't say anything to anyone. Don't tell anyone. And don't even mention it. I was like, yeah, no worries. I'm not going to tell anyone, That's completely kayfabe with me. No worries whatsoever, man. So he said, if everything, he goes, I still run it by Lawler and stuff. He said, but are you going to be home Monday night? And I'll call you back. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. I'll definitely, I'll be home, man. No worries there. So I went and done my Friday, Saturday towns down in, probably Johnson, Tennessee and Kingsport, Tennessee or Bristol or somewhere down that area, Tri-Cities, and made some pretty good money where I'd been on TV and stuff, enough, to make the bookies worth my while and things like that. And to come back home, got a call from Cornell on Monday evening, and he said, hey, I talked to Jerry over the weekend. It's a go. Everything's going to go. He said, got this all worked out, and kind of gave me an idea, gave me a blueprint to work with, if you will. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I get to work with Jerry the King Lawler, man. That's cool. And so back to the weekend, I was supposed to go. So several weeks passed, of course. They kept me off TV. I go back to Smoky Mountain. Well, I took an independent booking where I had still been working under some all the way to the night before the big Sunday, Bloody Sunday show I was supposed to be on. So this guy on a Saturday night, like I said, this is one of them outlaw mud shows, if you will. They've been paying me about $200 to come down once every couple of weeks and do a show for them. And they just had a little small group of guys, and they would use guys off of Smoky Mountain TV if they weren't booked. So I was, making a couple extra $100, $400 a month or whatever if I went down there for them. And so the plan was my brother was going to drive up from Miami, and his in-laws at the time were going to drive down to Knoxville and see him. And then my mom and myself, we were going to leave Ashland and go down on a Friday. We all weren't going to meet, though, until a Saturday. But we were going to go down a day early. And I was going to make some extra money, before I had to do the show. What's funny was that I don't know what the hell happened because, it's one of those outlaw mud shows or whatever, some goof, from Mud Lick, Tennessee or somewhere. He calls me and says, hey, Bobby, this is whatever the fuck his name was. I don't know. If I knew it, I probably wouldn't tell you anyway because I'd want to embarrass the guy if he's still around. But he just went off and started saying, man, I don't need you on this show this weekend. I'm not booking you. I heard you work for someone else for like $150, but you're always charging me $200 or something like that, and I'm like, well, that's what you offered me and that's what I took, whatever it was. Nonetheless, the day before I'm getting ready to win the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Title, this goofball calls me to tell me he can't use me or my services anymore, over that $50 difference or wherever the fuck it was, and whatever hairs up his ass or whatever. So my mom and I didn't have to leave a day early, which made it fine with me. We just left on that Saturday and took our time and got to Knoxville and got to see my brother and we had a nice visit, nice dinner and all that, And the funny thing was, and I'll come back to going to the match in just a second. The funny thing was, after I won the match on Sunday, on Monday, this fucking goofball calls me back and starts apologizing. He had been in the building, of course, so he saw me beat Jerry the King Lawler. He's like, hey, Bobby, this is so-and-so. He goes, man, if you want $250, I'll pay you $250. I ain't worried about the $150, $200. I'll pay you to come down here and do my matches. And just started going off and apologizing. I said, you know what, you just go fuck yourself. I said, well, you talked to me on Friday night on the phone. I said, I don't let people talk to me that way. And I said, plus, I said, I don't want your extra fucking $250. I don't need it, which, I could have always used it. But I was like, go fuck yourself, buddy. And I'd still see him at the Smoky Mountain shows after that. But he had no idea on that Sunday I was going to win. And by God, he called on that Monday. I do want to say, too, besides my brother coming up there to see me and my mom getting to watch me wrestle in Knoxville, one of the first people that called me that week when I got home, too, was my good friend JT Lightning, may he rest in peace. But he was always, kind of a friend outside the business, if you will. One of them people you really just take a liking to. And I wrote about JT in my book as well about this same time. But yeah, he was one of the boys, to congratulate me. And I thought that was always pretty cool. I really appreciated that. So let's go to that Sunday in Knoxville, Tennessee, at Sunday Bloody Sunday. In the first match, it was me against Brian Logan or Brian Keys. Real good hand, good little worker out of Beckley, West Virginia. Tim Horner and the people at the school there had trained him and another boy named Anthony. And they were, they come along really good, good hands. Excuse me there. And so I had this song in my head I was listening to just in different, music on the way down to Knoxville and stuff. It was a Tom Petty song. Little did I know that he's really tied in with Rick Rubens and all this, but it's called I Won't Back Down. And I thought, this would be a good song to come out to because of what's going to happen later on today. So I ran back out to the car, got my tape. It wasn't an 8-track, it was a cassette, just so you know, smart asses. Anyway, I'm not just fucking with you. So I went out in the opening match, and people hadn't seen me, like I said, for about 3 months in Knoxville. I'd been wrestling some up around this area without a mask or with a mask on if it was a house show, and then as myself if I was in Tennessee, but not on a Smoky Mountain show. But the main core of fans hadn't seen me, especially on TV, for 3 months at that point. And I come out, and Brian Logan, I think we were supposed to get about 7 to 8 minutes, and I think we got like 5 minutes in. He put me, over in the middle of the ring with the Northern Light suplex, 1, 2, 3, bam, boom, there you go. So as the matches go on, it's supposed to be Dirty White Boy and Buddy Landell. And the winner of that match gets to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler for the title. And that was the setup for the deal. So before that took place, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but Buddy, or White Boy, was out there at the match earlier, and Buddy had goggled him with the briefcase and swatted him upside the head, and White Boy got juice, boom, and he's out, and Buddy's saying, he's drunk, he can't wrestle, he can't perform, and this and that. So, Lawler, I guess it's me and you, right away, and this and that. Well, Bullet Bob Armstrong, he was a commissioner at the time. That's not the way he saw it. He said the winner of the match was supposed to wrestle, for the heavyweight title. And so anyway, he said, I'm going to go in the back, and I'm going to find the very first wrestler I find. I don't care who it is. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to pull him out, and he's going to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler. He's getting a title shot. And then whoever that is, then you can have a title shot that same day, Landell. Well, Landell raised all kinds of hell and stuff, of course, being Buddy, being the heel that he is and stuff. Well, I was the first person that Bullet Bob saw behind the curtain there, and he come out, and he's explaining it to me as we're walking to the ring. And he's just like, Bobby, and he's just telling me, give me the office and that and this and that. And I'm acting like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I had one boot, not all the way unlaced, but just untied, and, I can some tape off my wrist or something, like I was getting ready to get undressed. Anyway, Bullet walks me to the ring, and he says, Bobby Blaze will be filling in on this match. And then you're going to ask the announcers, they all tell everyone what's going on, that, of course, Lawler, when I get in the ring, Lawler would shake my hand, and I'm listening to Lawler. He's a ring general, that. So I just have to listen and go, man. And he sees the photographer out there, probably Jimmy Suzuki from the Japanese magazines or something. But anyway, Lawler puts his arm around me and says, hey, you ever been next to a superstar, a real wrestler, and this and that? And he just browbeat me, over the house mic. And we got our picture taken together. And I usually don't wrestle curtain jerkers, but, I guess you might be something special in these parts. I don't know who you are, Bobby Blaze, but whatever. And this, does the Lawler stuff. He's the fucking king, So we proceed to have the match, and it's just, it's definitely not a 5-star match, but it's a star match in that it's a good match that is in the card. It's complete in card. If you watch it singly, you're like, it's an average match. But when you put it to the entire card and how it worked into the card, it's an above average match. So, because he doesn't give me a whole lot there at the beginning, and I get a fluke here and there, I give him a couple kicks or whatever. But anyway, at some point, Dirty White Boy and Landell come out there, and they're trying to interfere with the match, and Landell jumps up to interfere, and as he does, I shoot Jerry Lawler off, and they bump heads, and I roll back, and I roll up Jerry the King Lawler, 1, 2, 3, and Mark Curtis raising my hand, new Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion Bobby Blaze, So that was really cool that Lawler, I spoke to him in the back before the show, just introduced myself, and pretty much just said, he said, just listen to me out there. And he said, oh, yeah, he said he'd see me clapping and trying to get the fans fired up that first match. He said, don't worry about any of that. He said, because this is already a build-up from an angle. So he knows he's the man. He ran territories and he's the king. So, okay. So I didn't get out there and go, let's do Bobby. I let the fans do all that on their own. So as soon as that happened, I'm standing in the ring staggering, and I'm holding the belt up, and I just, pretty much was getting beat up by the king. Landell grabs the house mic and he goes, well, looks like it's me and you, Bobby. And he jumps right in and he starts trying to glom on me, because I'm already down and beaten and stuff. But anyway, bottom line was, Dirty White Boy comes running out and he tries to interfere or some shit, I don't know. And I run Landell into him and I roll Landell up and beat Landell and remain the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion. So, thanks to Lawler for the King of Tennessee putting me over there in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was at the gym later that week, and WLW out of Cincinnati is a big, powerful AM radio station back in the day. And they have a trivia question every day after 3 o'clock during sports and stuff. They let you call in or this and that. Someone come in and tell me that was sports trivia question of the day. Jerry Lawler had gotten beat twice in the same week and lost 2 major titles. Can anyone call in and tell me who it was? And someone had called in, a wrestling fan, I guess, had to be, and they said that, he lost the USWA title to Bill Dundee, and he lost the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Heavyweight title to Bobby Blaze all in the same week. So that got me a trivia question answer too, one of the biggest upsets of the year. And I know Jeremy, he always puts over those rankings and he thinks I don't like them, but I do like the PWI rankings. I mean, I used to love that magazine anyway, but I got to, I had been ranked in it before, but that got me all the way up to 109th in the world ranking, and I thought that was great. That's pretty damn high ranking. I thought that was cool and stuff. So anyway, that's my Lawler story. I probably talked too fast through it, maybe too slow. Looks like I've been speaking about 35, 40 minutes now. I don't know. Again, listen, if you hear this on Tuesday, be thankful that Jeremy has edited it and gotten it up there, because hopefully he's feeling better by then to do that. If it's a day later too, you might understand why. And if you're out there, just be careful. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and social distance, and do all those things you're supposed to do. I hope I carried this promo, interview, podcast, what do you want to call it. I hope I did enough to give you at least a little bit of weekly entertainment. I had a book here, had a bunch of Jerry Lawler insults in it. I'm not going to read any of those, just the ones he had from his book of insults on ugly people, fat people, and skinny people, and just people in general. From another book. I thought if I run out of time, I read those. But anyway, listen, if you don't hear my voice between now and Christmas, and you hear it now, maybe not before Christmas. I'm sorry. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year to you. We've got several shows still lined up for this season. I think we're going to go to, we may do another Jerry King Lawler. I don't know that, but I know we're scheduled to do the next 3 shows are scheduled to be J.J. Dillon. You should know where that's heading at. That's going to be heading to the Carolinas. And then their biggest star, of course, will be Ric Flair. So that should be our next 3 podcasts that we have lined up unless something does change. Again, I hope you're liking this season the way we've done them. We done Gary Hart out in Texas. Then we done Texas. And then we done Gino Hernandez. Then we done Jimmy Hart, done Tennessee. And now we done Jerry the King Lawler. So anyway, keep on tuning in to the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze podcast. Do me a favor, follow me on Twitter at Bobby Blaze 744. Jeremy, send him a word of encouragement to keep getting better. He's at the Geekish Cast. And then also the joint account. Now, Jeremy runs the joint account, but I do read it and log into that sometimes. And it's Bell to Bell Blaze podcast, or just Bell to Bell Blaze, rather, on Twitter. I think Jeremy has a YouTube, not YouTube, what's that called? Facebook group that's Bell to Bell Blaze too. So join that as well. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. And I'm sticking to Twitter for right now. I'm not saying all that's forever. It's just the way I choose to do things. I like Twitter quite a bit. Again, I'm at Bobby Blaze 744. And just take care of yourselves out there. Be kind to yourselves. And it doesn't take anything to be nice to others, but you know what? Maybe sometimes it's also just be nice to yourself, not be so harsh on yourself, and just do that for yourself, man. Just take care of yourself. So with that said, for the late Tex Johnson, on the mend, hopefully, Jeremy Vilmer, hope he gets better. I'm Bobby Blaze. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll talk to you again next week. Thank you for tuning in, wrestling fans.